Good morning. You're now listening to Kingston Community Radio on FM 92.5 and AM 920 WGHQ, Kingston, New York. This programming is brought to you by our listeners and corporate underwriters who are interested in presenting local community radio. The opinions expressed on this program do not represent those of Panel Broadcasting or Kingston Community Radio. Listeners are encouraged to send in $10 per month to help bring this program to you, and mail your contributions to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. For more information, or you can donate online by visiting our website at mykcr.org. Good morning, and this is Dan Gaddis, and thank you for tuning in. This is a Medical Monday with Dr. Ed Aleo, and it's Monday, September 27th, and 54 degrees, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Thanks for starting your day with Kingston Community Radio on 920 WGHQ AM Kingston and 92.5 W223CR FM Kingston, New York. Magic 92.5.
Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than cooking up a big meal for the whole family and lots of friends. But there's not enough room at my table for the 17 million kids in our country who struggle with hunger. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food to give hope to hungry kids. But they can't do it without your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Cameron Rylance from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it's informative.
And you're listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ, 920 on your AM dial, and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Talk radio at its best, and it's 331-9255, 845-331-9255 to call in and talk to our hosts and guests. Mostly cloudy skies early today, then partly cloudy this afternoon, a high of 77. Mostly cloudy skies with scattered thunderstorms developing late tonight, about a 40% chance of that. And Tuesday, cloudy with periods of rain, an 80% chance of rain for Tuesday, with a high around 65. And Tuesday night, a few clouds from time to time, low of 44. And let's get to the on-air studio with Dr. Ed Aleo. Good morning.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good. Excellent.
Hey, Dan,
Top of the morning.
I don't know if you noticed, Dan, but it's an outstanding sunrise today. Sky is beautiful out there.
Yeah, I catch a little of it just as I'm coming down the steps to get to the car.
It's coming up now.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Anyhow,
yeah.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
But you're right. It's coming later. The
right.
sunrise is coming
That's
a little
right.
later now.
And the sunset is earlier. That's sad.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Okay.
shorter days.
Well, today, somebody asked me to do something on hearing. So I thought I would do something in a little academic and also clinical about hearing, a little different than what people usually talk about, and have a little fun and you know, see what happens. Okay, Dan? So, you know, one of the things, just a little bit of trivia here. I don't know if you knew this or not, Dan, but did you know that humans are born with only two fears, supposedly? One is the fear of falling and loud noises. You get a reflex. It's called a reflex center. So everybody,
that's interesting right off the bat.
All other fears are learned, supposedly. So I thought that was interesting. Another piece of trivia for people who are brain-oriented, and that is that the average person produces as many as 12,000 to 50,000 thoughts per day. Now, that depends on what kind of thinker they are, Dan.
Or how many dreams they're having.
Or what? Or
daydreams.
Or both. So I can't imagine myself
150,000 thoughts a day. That's probably true, come to think of it.
I don't know what a thought is. Maybe it's like, oh, yeah. Or is it something more?
Probably a new I guess a thought would be a new process of thinking that was different than the last one.
Yeah, I can't see myself having 50,000, even 12,000. But anyhow, that was a piece of trivia that I found, and I thought it was interesting for all those thinkers out there. How's that? Another thing that is happening with the pandemic, people are all into statistics. So I thought I'd pull up some statistics regarding hearing. So for the listeners, supposedly, and this is a statistic that I found, 17% of the population, which is of our country, which is about 42 million people, have hearing loss that can be treated somehow. And the U.S. population is 328 million people, and 10.6% will give you that number, approximately that number of 34 million people. In New York State alone, we have 19,500,000 people, and if there's 10.6% of those people have hearing loss, that's 2,071,000 people need help. And we talk about help, we're usually talking about nerve deafness, Dan. When nerve deafness is different than an infection in your ear or a sinus problem. That still causes some kind of reduction in hearing.
But it's temporary, I guess, right? It's acute,
not
temporary. Yeah, right.
It's not permanent. So those people usually look at amplification or hearing aids to help solve their problem. Another statistic, just to give you a difference between states, we have 19.5 million people in New York State. North Dakota has 760,000 people. We have more people with hearing loss in New York State than they do population.
Right.
760,000 people in North Dakota, and we have 2 million plus people in New York State that have hearing loss.
Yep.
Pretty interesting, huh?
Very populated state.
and look how big that state is per square mile compared to us. Anyhow,
there's Buffalo and there's. Yeah, but it's North Dakota is very agrarian, and I would venture to say that the population of North Dakota has a lower percentage of hearing loss people than New York. It's possible because of the urban noise and things like that. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting. That's a good point. But generally speaking, it's an age-related thing. So it's the same number, the same percentage of people across the country have hearing loss. So if we say 10% again, they would have about 80,000 people who need help.
All right.
But interestingly enough, back to New York State, we have 2 million plus people who could use amplification, for example, and there's only 1,400 plus audiologists. And
I don't think you can cover that, right?
You cannot cover that.
Oh, geez.
And there's 325 plus hearing aid dispensers. Those are people who are, it'd be akin to audiology, hearing aid dispenser, sort of optometrist and optician. So they'd be like the optician part. But the point is that at one point, years ago, there were something like less than there were a number of counties that had no dispensers or audiologists in them years ago. It's better now, probably one person. So all those professionals are in the cities, like New York City, Long Island, Westchester,
Buffalo, maybe,
Buffalo, Albany, and then you go up north in the Adirondacks. There's probably more bear than people. Sorry, folks. And there's less providers for them. So I thought, interesting statistic.
Very, very interesting and somewhat unbalanced, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But as we baby boomers are emerging into older age, it's showing it up.
Of course.
Exponentially, I guess.
And that's what happens.
Yeah.
The baby boomers are the people who are more inclined to have the hearing loss and also seek out help. not everybody seeks out help. The reasons patients are unsuccessful with hearing aids is they tend to think hearing aids versus cognitive processing. By cognitive processing, it's more of a function of there's more to solving hearing loss than hearing aids. There has to be a rehabilitation program. There has to be a medical treatment program to help people do better. You have to stimulate the brain a little bit, not a little bit, you have to stimulate the brain, and that helps with cognitive processing. Without that, you have decline of hearing, you have a decline of processing or cognitive processing.
So there's a round of therapies. There's a kind of a syllabus of therapies that go with getting a hearing aid.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's interesting that people, even today, think that they can wear one hearing aid when they have hearing loss in both ears. So that's one of the negatives to trying to help get better, hear better, or process better. Mm-hmm. And I'll explain why later when I talk about how processing works. But so you got to wear two hearing aids when you have a hearing loss.
Right. Otherwise, you won't know where things are. Where sounds are coming from.
That's
too.
one thing.
You need both ears for that.
You need both ears for localizing. Mm-hmm. You need both ears to hear in background noise. And here's one for you. Everybody in the audience can try this one to see if I'm right. If you're driving in your car and you turn your radio on, you roll down your window, and then there's noise. So noise interferes with processing, especially if you have a hearing loss. But if you don't have a hearing loss, you still have difficulty with background noise. So what you do to find out if I'm right, you put your finger in your left ear, which is the window side, and listen to the radio and listen what happens. The noise will tend to overshadow the speaker or the radio, and then if you take your finger out of your ear simultaneously, you'll hear clearness of the speech, which proves that one ear isn't as efficient as two ears in reducing the effects of background noise in conversation. The other problem that people have with hearing aids, which is a big mistake, is they wear a hearing aid one day and not the next. In other words, you have to adjust neurologically to hearing aids. So the big fallacy is, well, I don't need them that much. Big mistake. As soon as you have hearing loss and you need hearing aids, you need to wear them all the time, every day, all day. Yeah. But you have to work up to it. In our practice, there's a wearing schedule. You start out with 2 hours a day, and you start at the end of the day, say at 6 o'clock, you wear it till 8 o'clock. You do that for a number of days, and then you wear it 3 hours a day. Start at 6 and wear it till 9, 6 till 10, and then you're back into the day. You start at 5 to 10, 4 to... You don't start in the morning and walk outside. That's a big problem for many, many people. I'm talking first-time users. Mm-hmm. So what happens is they go outside and they're overwhelmed. The other part about your brain is even though you can hear better with hearing aids, you are overstimulating your brain in this sense that hearing aids, let me say a good analogy would be this, Dan. If you're stimulating your brain constantly with new stimulation, the hearing aid, you fatigue. By fatiguing, I mean it's either too loud, you're wearing it too long, and the results are similar to being in loud music or loud noise for a long time.
We call that in the audio engineering world ear fatigue, because of you've been listening to mixes and working on mixes all day long. You have to take ear breaks.
Well, let me explain why.
Yeah. Okay.
The reason it happens is like in your profession. Or anybody, even if you were a carpenter working in loud noise, or people working in the gym, they have loud music on. It increases heart rate. It increases respiration, and it constricts blood vessels. That's called a headache. So people who wear hearing aids will say to you, old people, they say, well, the hearing aid gives me a headache. And you go like, that doesn't make sense. But that's what happens. When you constrict blood vessels, you get pressure. So And the last thing that makes them not do well is they constantly adjust the volume of the hearing aid, or they adjust the programming. So they never settle into getting used to it. So if they have what we used to do, what I used to do, is I would limit their ability to adjust the loudness, the volume.
Sure, absolutely.
And then I would give them one program only for the first week or two, and then let them add, because you can get 5 programs. That's too many programs for anybody. You know, it's a program for listening to music, program for TV, program for restaurants.
Oh boy, okay.
Constantly pushing buttons. So anyhow.
Yeah, and our ears don't do that, but our brains do.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And your brain can keep up. Your brain can keep up with that, but your hearing aid can't, so to speak.
Right.
So anyhow, as good as they are. And the other thing that's of interest with hearing loss and people is a comorbidity. We all talk about comorbidity with the onset of the pandemic, but there's a comorbidity with regard to hearing loss. Often with age, patients experience, other problems like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, which constricts blood vessels. By the way, if you have cardiovascular disease and it constricts big blood vessels, your ear, which is the cochlea, has little teeny tiny thread-type blood vessels, and if they get constricted, that impacts on your ability to process within the cochlea. So there's a problem. Dementia. Wow. Dementia is also a problem as you get older. The cognitive decline. And here's one interesting one that people never think about, and that is with hearing loss. There's 2 parts of your ear. There's the balanced part of your ear, and there's the hearing part of your ear. So
the balanced part is that swirly little snail-shaped thing called the cochlea, right?
Well, the cochlea is the hearing part of the ear.
Okay, sorry.
That's right.
Right. No, we've got the
semicircular
canals.
Good for you.
That is that's the part that's for balance. Yeah.
We're going back to high school anatomy, which is your semicircular canals, which causes your balance. And one part of your balance system, and the other part of your balance system is the back of your brain, which is the cerebellum. That's a neurological balance. So one is a balance system from your ear, and then you have the cochlea. The cochlea is for hearing.
Right.
So as you have a decrease in hearing, oftentimes there's subtle decrease in balance system. So people who have severe hearing loss or more hearing loss tend to have more of a balance problem. And they never think about the 2 being related at all.
Very related, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's called the vestibular system. The semicircular canals is the vestibular system, and then there's the cochlear system.
I've taught acoustics and things like that, and one of the first things that you teach about is how the ear works. But one thing I've always been mystified by is why our ears are the center of balance. Why our ears are the center of balance for our body. That's fascinating to me, where the connection is.
We can talk about that we can talk about that too. But again, your semicircular canals, the vestibular system, is the center of balance, and that's in your ear. So it's when you tilt your head one way, that's one semicircular canal. You bend over, so there's 3 of them. There's a superior, a horizontal, and a posterior semicircular canal. And when people become dizzy, the posterior and horizontal canals are sometimes involved, and people start to spin around. So people who are dizzy and spin, who have vertigo, you will usually look immediately at their ear. If they're lightheaded or they shuffle their feet when they walk, that's your brain. So they say they're dizzy. So everybody says dizziness, but what is it? Is it vertigo? When you turn, you get dizzy. When you roll over, you're dizzy. Those are dizziness problems. Those are vertigo problems. That's an ear problem. So there's different aspects of this, but. Anyhow, comorbidity increases with age. As comorbidity increases and you have hearing loss, the more you run the risk of what they say dementia, because you can't process. So you have with comorbidity, or some of the comorbidity is depression, anxiety, isolation with hearing loss. People who have comorbidity also have, like, they may have kidney disease, thyroid disease, cancer, heart disease, mental health problems, HIV, AIDS, malnutrition, substance abuse, bladder control, constipation. All those things come into play. See,
wow,
with aging.
Right, and that's oftentimes why like certain patients have a fall warning. Like that some patients might fall easier than others, and would definitely the dizziness and that kind of sense of not being balanced would be playing into that warning.
So let's take this direction. This will be good. You'll like this one maybe. Your balance system is two parts. Your ear, like I said, so it's like semicircular canals, and the other part would be your cerebellum, the base of your brain. Okay, so things that make people unbalanced as you get older would be carpet. Now, this carpet is solid on the floor we're at. If you get mushy carpet with lots of filler underneath it, people who have balance problems from their brain have a hard time walking on it. They become very unsteady. Or even if you're people who are in a boat have both problems, because if they have an ear problem and they're getting older, when you get on a boat, you lose your proprioception, which is orientation of yourself from your base of your brain, cerebellum, and your body, knowing where your body parts are. See, that's an orientation. So if you have an ear problem, you stay up three ways, Dan: your eyes, your ear, and your proprioception, your brain. So when people have like vertigo and their ear is a problem, what happens to them is when they get on a boat, for example, they lose their proprioception and they get sick.
Sure.
Or if people drink a lot, here's one for you: drunks. When they drink too much, the first thing people do when they're dizzy is they close their eyes. When you close your eyes,
you lost one of the elements of keeping balance.
Your eyes, ears. and so what happens, they end up vomiting. So one of the secrets, not for drinking necessarily, but I guess it would work for drinking, would be if people are dizzy, spinning dizziness, if they were to look at something like their thumb, keep their eyes open, it's really hard to do because your reflex, one of those reflexes, is to close your eyes.
Interesting.
And you get more dizzy.
Yep.
So
I've noticed that many times on the sailboats.
Yeah.
People who have a tendency for seasickness. I mean, there's some great remedies, but the worst thing to do is to go down below.
Right, because you lose your vision.
Yes, you lose your sense of what's causing these movements. And what I do oftentimes is if somebody's feeling a little nauseous, I give them the tiller. And then they're responsible for the motion of the boat.
That's the same thing with driving. When people drive, Dan, what they do is if you're the driver, you don't get as car sick. Passenger or back seat, same as what you just talked about.
Right. See? My daughter used to get car sick in a bus if we were taking a bus trip or something. And they always allowed her to sit in the front.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yes, right.
So those are some of the interesting things about hearing loss, and also we talked about dementia. But if you have hearing loss, if you don't stimulate the ear with hearing loss, the less you use your ear because of hearing loss, the worse it gets. The hearing loss doesn't get better, but your inability to cognitively process,
that's fascinating,
or to hear in background noise becomes a problem.
It's not just
lack
about
of stimulation.
Yeah. It's not just about adding volume.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's not about volume. So lack of stimulation or lack of improvement to the cochlea it works its way up to your brain, which is your central auditory cortex. So there is a trip up there, so to speak, from your ear, which is the cochlea, that snail thing you talked about, to this part of your brain right here, which is the central auditory cortex.
That was the left. He was pointing just above the ear to the left side of the brain.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's on both sides.
Yeah, okay.
That's good.
We're symmetrical there.
Yeah, there we go. Hearing loss is a degenerative process. It doesn't get better, and with age, it usually gets worse. So anyhow, that's interesting. Let me just talk for a second about how this works, because we're running out of time. This is kind of unique, and if you're a little bit of on a science part of it, you might find it interesting. But the cognitive processing neurologically works like this, Dan. You have that snail type aspect, which is called the cochlea. We're going to call that stage 1.
Good.
It's easy.
Yeah.
So what that does is it sends information to the first stage 1, which is the cochlear nuclei, whatever that is. But that does temporal coding, temporal by time, I mean. It's a timing thing. So that if you have hearing loss, and it's a high-pitched hearing loss, and people have problems processing right out of the cochlea to this first stage, what happens is some of the things that happen to them is that they miss the beginning of words or the ends of words. So they're the people who sit there and they're listening to you, but they're chasing the conversation, so they just become a lump and they stop participating in talking.
Because they're not hearing the consonants and things like that.
Well, they don't hear the first part, which could be a consonant.
Okay.
And they don't hear the last part of words, so they're thinking, what did he say?
Okay.
While you're thinking about what's being said, the conversation's going on. And they finally stop listening, so to speak. Stage 2 is another area called, it's called the superior olivary complex. Nice word. But that analyzes or filters auditory information. So it's a filtering system. So it has a binaural, 2 ears. It has a 2-ear integration. Okay? So that helps in helping people to hear in background noise. So that system, the superior olivary complex, helps you in background noise. But if you have a defective cochlea, the snail part of the ear, then you're not able to hear in background noise without some kind of correction. The third stage is another good word. I like this word, inferior colliculus. So we'll call that stage 3. It's a backup to stage 2, and it's responsible for sound localization. Remember we talked about that? That's the binaural integration. So if you have a problem with the cochlea, now you miss first parts of words, you can't hear in background noise, and now you can't tell where sound's coming from. Pretty cool, huh?
It's phenomenal how many stages there are after the cochlea.
Right. It's called
phenomenal.
central. It has another term called central auditory processing. So the stage 4, another nice word. I like this word best of all, Dan. It's called medial geniculate body.
Okay, medial geniculate body. Okay.
So it's the output connection. It's a relay station between stage 2 and the auditory cortex which is your brain. So that's the other stage. It's called stage 4. It's a fun word, medial geniculate body.
I am schooled. Thank you.
Here you go.
I am very, very schooled. I wasn't aware of so many neural stages that were going on between the cochlea and the neural canal. You know, the we call it the auditory nerve.
Yeah. The auditory nerve is different from all those. The auditory nerve is from that snail going out.
Okay.
That's where you go to the first one.
Oh, okay.
Stage 1.
So the other 4 stages are actually happening in your brain.
It's all the way up from the base of the brain.
Gotcha.
So the stage 5 is your auditory cortex. That's up here in the cerebellum. So that one, and there's a lobe, your parietal lobe right here, side lobe, and that's that's where Herschel's gyrus is. That's the primary auditory cortex. And Dan, I'm going to leave you with this one. You'll love it. Okay. The last stage is Wernicke's area. That's responsible for comprehension of speech. Isn't that cool? So you went from the analysis of sounds at the cochlea to interpretation and comprehension at the auditory cortex, which is Wernicke's area. What do you think, Dan? I lost him.
I think we're good. I think that's phenomenal.
I know.
Didn't have a cue on.
I know. I saw that.
Okay.
That was pretty. So anyhow, that was a quick analysis. Nobody ever thinks about that. Not even the professional, not the doctors. They just think you hear and you don't hear.
Exactly.
But if you don't hear well and you have a defective ear, meaning the cochlea, the snail, then other things happen in processing language, speech, and that's where dementia tends to creep in. And another time we can talk more about dementia. They wanted me to talk about hearing. I thought this was a fun thing to do.
Absolutely. That was such a phenomenal rundown. And very, very enlightening.
Well, you were a good audience, Dan. I couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah,
I need a little feedback.
Yeah, exactly. A little bounce. Okay. All right, let's go to break.
Hey, guys.
How you doing?
Good. You came in right at the end.
Yep.
Hi, Kwami. Nice to
And you're here with us at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ. It's Monday, September 27th, and 54 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. You're here with Dr. Ed Aleo and his guests. And we'll be right back after this break.
Thanks for starting your day with Kingston Community Radio on 920 WGHQ AM Kingston and 92.5 W223CR FM Kingston, New York. Magic 92.5.
Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than cooking up a big meal for the whole family and lots of friends. But there's not enough room at my table for the 17 million kids in our country who struggle with hunger. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food to give hope to hungry kids. But they can't do it without your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Electrical fires can be caused by overloaded circuits or outlets, frayed wires, faulty appliances, or deficient cords. This is Central Hudson reminding you, in the event of an electrical fire, call the fire department and let them know it's an electrical fire. Never use water to put out the flames of an electrical fire, as that may cause serious shock. And use only an approved fire extinguisher. If possible to do so safely, shut off the main breaker. Your safety matters.
Hi, this is Diane Eastwick from Athens, New York, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ. A little bit about the weather and forecast for Kingston and the surrounding areas. Mostly cloudy skies early, then partly cloudy this afternoon. It's going to be a high of 77. Looks like a good day. And mostly cloudy skies early with scattered thunderstorms developing late tonight. Low of 59 this overnight, and it's a 40% chance of rain tonight, and that climbs up to an 80% chance of rain Tuesday. Cloudy with periods of rain, high around 65. And Tuesday night, a few clouds from time to time, a low of 44. And Wednesday looks great. Mostly sunny skies on Wednesday, high of 66. And Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low of 47. Let's get back to the on-air studio with Dr. Ed Aleo and our new guests for this half hour. Welcome back, Dr. Ed Aleo.
Thanks, Dan. We're back. Well, we're going to move off of hearing. We're going to talk about something a little different now. Mike's here, Mike Enoch, and he brought an associate of his, a friend of his, Kwami. And Mike, what does Kwami do now? What organization does he represent?
Well, I met with him through the it's a program called the Kingston Mutual Aid. It was something that was created here locally during COVID when there was a big need for people that couldn't get out and still needed things. So through social media, because people were still on social media, they found it as a good outlet to let people know what they need in the community and then see how we can help them in the community with community members helping community members.
Doing what though, Mike?
They need help with assistance with maybe some bills sometimes, some food, even some clothes, things like that. Any kind of need that they may have that they may not be able to get through social services or through some other outlets. A lot of programs available, but sometimes you have to have an income requirement, and there's a lot of jumping through hoops to get services. So people might need things right away.
So we have here with us here is Kwami. Hi, Kwami. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So Mike was just telling us a little bit about Kingston Mutual Aid program, which I assume you established?
Oh, no. I currently am a moderator on the Facebook page, and so is Mike. But no, it was started by a set of other volunteers, but I started volunteering for them, I guess, last February.
So where are they housed? Where are they? Where's it located?
Well, right now, it doesn't have a physical location. It's located on this Facebook page, which is also part of the idea, I think, in some ways, which is that it's not super institutional, right? So we're moderators on the page, but we're not in charge of anything. We don't control who gets money and who doesn't.
Sounds pretty loose, Kwami.
I think the idea is to be a little bit, yeah, to kind of I think the idea is to kind of, as Mike sort of suggested, to not have it be like going to DSS where they have a range of rules and regulations and policies that people need in order to get some sort of assistance. Our program or idea is really organized around the notion of autonomy. And so people can make asks on the page. People can offer what they'd like to give other folks. And if you make an ask, an individual...
I'm sorry, a what?
An ask, a request.
An ask. Okay.
An ask, yeah.
Oh, an ask, not an ACT, an ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very politically correct.
Some sort of, entreat of some sort.
Yes. Correct.
So, yeah, people ask for all sorts of things, like Mike suggested, like clothes or help paying rent or cell phone bill, et cetera, and then individuals can choose to help them or not.
How do you, I think that sounds very interesting, how do you qualify these people?
What do you mean? Well, there's no qualification for having
Aleo calls in,
oh, yeah.
You know, I have a nice car, I live in a nice place, and I say, hi, I'd like this, thus and such. Can you help me with my electric bill this month? It's $200.
Well,
how do you know who I am?
That's an interesting question. I would say that for someone of that income profile, well, first let me say something more generally. It's really hard to ask. A lot of people feel ashamed to ask for things. So I think people who have a certain kind of income, they'd be dissuaded even on a kind of just personality or cultural level.
Right. Okay, let me just cut to the chase here. I wouldn't call in.
Sure.
Ed wouldn't be in there.
But you know, our society has changed, and I don't care how you guys look at it, it's changed. There are people who, I hate to be mean-spirited about this. I won't be mean-spirited. I'll just say scammers. And they'll call in, and you're going to give them money? Or you're going to pay the bill?
Am I personally?
No, not you.
Well, but that's the point, right? Which is that it's individuals who choose to give or not. And we assume that everyone's an adult in sort of two ways, right? So our idea is that, like, you're an adult, so we're not going to, like, for example, a welfare office, make you do a lot of educational programs to get help. And also we're like, you're an adult, so you're aware that human beings can occasionally be dishonest. And so you can make the choice.
Kwami?
Kwami.
You're Kwami.
Maybe a little bit of one. But that's
maybe a little bit of Kwami.
Yeah, a little.
Tragic turn somewhere. Left turn and
out. We can go there too if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay, Kwami.
Oh God, here we go.
You know, it's nice that you have such high esteem about individuals. I'm a little more leery about some of those things. I think it's great what you do. But so if somebody calls in and wants something, then somebody else is supposed to help them? You don't have money in your organization. Is that right?
There have been times where we created an emergency fund that people could then donate to, and we would give out, say, $50 to an individual every 3 months. That part of the program is currently not active, though we are trying to reorganize it.
Sometimes if someone asks for something and so I need this, and someone else on the site might like say, hey, I have this available, and it connects those two. And so like say, oh, this person needs this, this, and that. Hey, I can probably help this person this week. I'm okay with my bills. I can help this person. So that person would reach out to the person directly. I saw your post. How can we work this out? And then it brings people together in the community kind of anonymously. So like the person who asked for help, the person who's helping them may not necessarily come on and say, I'm helping them. They just kind of help them.
They don't meet each other.
Sometimes they do. So because sometimes people deliver items or food to people. So
the food part I like, by the way.
Okay.
The money part I'm a little skeptical about, by the way.
You don't have to do it.
Yeah. No, but you're right about the, being skeptical about it. And that's why, like, with the moderators can look into, see some posts and know histories of people, like histories of their posts, not like judging whatever they're doing, but history of their posts to see if there's like a lack of continuity. The story's not making sense. Last week he said this, now he's saying this. So it's kind of like moderating and talking to the person, maybe one-on-one, and seeing what specific help they need. Because sometimes it could be someone maybe who is trying to build things.
Very interesting. So, Kwami, how many, would you say, asks do you get a day or a week?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, you couldn't tell me.
Yeah. It's not the sort of thing that we would keep track of.
Really? I'm surprised. I thought, in a sense of establishing a presence in a community, we just had a discussion about statistics, with the pandemic, we know how many people got sick, how many people go to the hospital, how many people do different things. And that helps individuals understand the vitality of a program or of what's ever going on. So, do you have any idea how many asks you get?
Well, it's interesting. I think most institutions that are trying to assess their vitality, as you would put it, are doing so to make a case for money, right? So they're saying we're effective, so donate to us. Or if we're a business, like we're making money, so investors invest in us. But we aren't interested in that sort of approach to things. Like we care about if our members are experiencing some kind of harm on the page, and we think about interventions in that respect.
Some kind of what?
Harm.
Oh, harm.
On the page, and we think about interventions in that respect. But we're not like less people are asking or more people are asking because need is just we think that it's an ongoing thing in the community. We're like we don't imagine there ever will not be need, so we think we'll probably always be around.
Okay.
Yes,
but somebody like me who doesn't understand,
yes,
obviously,
sure.
And would like to understand,
yes.
I think.
What's still confusing you?
Well, the part that confuses me is that there's no, if I wanted to do something or if I wanted to promote this or see this promoted, people need to know how efficient an organization is. I'm sure you're very efficient, by the way, I can tell. I think it's just an idea. I mean, I'm a statistic guy. I like numbers.
Think of it less as an organization and more as a forum for, as Michael said, people to come together and help each other. It's not, and it's really organized around the idea we're all we've got, we're all we need. So which is a way of saying we aren't the government, right?
That's good.
We don't actually think the government's really great at solving the major crises that are produced by.
I believe that.
Yeah, capitalism and all sorts of things, and
I don't believe that part, but go ahead.
Oh, we can get into it, but we also don't. We don't think that the private, sort of the charitable sector, is necessarily the solution either. Not that we have anything against that, but we feel like occasionally. There can be, how do I put this sort of kindly? There can be a...
kind?
Well, what we want is to empower people to help each other, and we think that that's really the thing which can prevent a kind of infantilization, which can happen sometimes within the charitable sector.
I personally probably only support, besides this radio station, Kingston Community Radio, there's probably only one or two other not-for-profits that I support because I think they're top-heavy. That's what maybe you were trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. They're super bureaucratic. I
agree.
And they have other masters, so to speak, right? Yeah. They've got their board of directors and, various things like that. And we want to make it really easy for people to help each other while also making sure that we prioritize the people who need the most, right? So this means communities of color, working class people. We want to make sure that there's resources available for those folks. Women, people who've experienced domestic violence, those sorts of things.
It's not charity, it's like solidarity.
Exactly, that's exactly it.
Instead of charities.
What does that mean, Mike?
Just people coming together, solidarity, like people coming together for a common goal when there's like-minded individuals coming together in a spirit of love for a common goal. That's what it is. And then in the midst of that, you're going to have people that are like, oh, look at these people. I can take advantage of them. Vulnerability. So it's coming from a stance of non-judgmental, like saying, this person looks like he's scamming, but he may need something, so let's try to work with this person. Maybe there's a mental block. Maybe there's a substance use issue that he doesn't feel comfortable talking about. So he's making these little white lies to get some money, but it's really because he needs to pay to buy food. But he's not saying that because of insecurity and fear of being judged.
To be sure, yeah.
So to kind of have it as a non-judgmental thing, it'll make people feel more comfortable to ask for help. Like today after work, I'm dropping off some clothes and a packing plate to someone. My wife got on with the community aid. They needed help. She wanted a private message in her, and every so often my wife will get some things together for her because she feels safe with reaching out to my wife now because she knows that my wife's not judging her. And if we can help her, we will. So I've got a bag of clothes and a packing plate to bring over because she needs that at this time.
So the judgmental part seems to be the sticking point for me.
Mm-hmm. No, I get me.
Is it because
am I that unique? Am I that different than society, general society?
No. So it is about trying to model a different approach to how we relate to each other in a general sense, right? So I think that one of the things that we see on the page a lot is like, well, that person doesn't deserve to get money, but this person does, and that really comes from the experience of scarcity, which is one of the things that capitalism sort of forces upon us, which is that the idea that there's never actually enough. And so when people are really raised in that culture, then they begin to have ideas around, well, we know there's not enough, so that means we have to have a standard or a system for determining who deserves to get what. And we think there actually is enough. And our whole approach is how would we structure, again, a forum for aid under the premise that there actually is enough and not working from scarcity.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And I think the non-judgmental part is unique.
I was trying to look up it up on
Kwami,
Facebook.
if I could, I'd love to ask you.
Sure. This is Dan.
How the population? Hi, Kwami. How the population of Ulster County, Kingston, our local population that this is definitely targeted for. How do they find out about it? It's the first I've heard, and it's a beautiful, beautiful concept. What is the name of the currency? What do we call it? Currents?
Current, yeah.
It's very similar to that. It's off the grid, and you have a way of making money and saving money and paying for things off the grid. And in a way, it seems that that's what you're doing. A little bit off the grid, where you're off of the, the funding channels and things like that, and it's just people helping people.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But how does? But more importantly, that was just my impression. How parallel it is to the currents. But the big question was how does everybody find out about you?
So it's Kingston Mutual Aid. Just search that on Facebook, and you'll find the group. And you have to answer a couple of questions. You have to be a local, and you have to abide by our community agreements, which not everyone will necessarily be into. So,
what does that mean? Community agreements? What's that mean?
They are Well, they're the agreements that we've made to maintain the kind of community that we sort of want to see on the Facebook page, right? So it's interesting just to speak to a funny point about how systems work. Like, Facebook requires that it be called rules, but we prefer the term agreements because, again, we think that people should like affirm to something rather than be told what to do from above. And then they're responsible for maintaining them. So you have to agree with the community standards and agreements, which is like, obviously be kind to each other. You have to be okay with the notions of racial justice and economic justice. And these are ideological, so not everyone's going to be into those. So yeah, there's a few others, but kindness, listening to each other, etc.
That's interesting. Yeah, good. Those sound like nice affirmations.
Yes, absolutely. Just put us on a daily calendar. We're here.
There you go. Kwami's affirmations.
Well, mutual aid is not my concept, and it's certainly not a new concept. This is as old as like humanity, you know. I mean, I'm on the radio right now, but I do want to emphasize that I'm representing. There's been, I don't know, a dozen plus people who were moderators before myself, even more who really established Kingston Mutual Aid at the height of the pandemic, who did some of the hardest work around it. So, and the majority of those being, you know, feminine identified people and women. So it's which shouldn't surprise us, right? I mean, that women were at the start of this in Kingston. So I'm happy to come on and talk on the show as a person who Michael knows loves to talk, but it's not my program and I didn't start it in. And I really want to emphasize other people's work, which has been amazing.
And other towns have this. It's not only Kingston.
Exactly, it's all over, yeah.
There's other places that have the similar thing, like the concept. Kingston just got on a concept that was already established.
Totally.
Do you know who the original, how the first kind of started?
I mean, I think it's
off the model of the other one before.
Well, there's been an explosion in them recently in the wake of the George Floyd protests. I think people were asking, like, what can we do to transform our society beyond the immediate question of the police, and also because of the COVID pandemic. People were like, well, there's a whole bunch of folks who've lost their jobs, who can't actually travel to get things. So those two things together have produced a real explosion in interest all over the country. But the actual, I think, mutual aid organizations, you could go back to the labor movement, you know, which has all been about notions of solidarity.
I tell you, I feel like we're zigzagging around in my brain anyhow.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I understand the idea of Kingston Mutual Aid. For me, it would be the philosophical discussion we're having here, which immediately polarizes people. I mean, you just did it to me.
Do you feel polarized?
Of course I do. Let me tell you why.
Which pole are you at? North or south?
Sorry. Okay, he's going to send it.
The reason I say that is because, you know, I think helping people, mutual aid, having people ask for help, outstanding. Politicizing it to the police, which you did a second ago, which I'm a very strong supporter of the police. So when I hear you say that, as much as I'd like to help the Kingston Mutual Aid, I have to go, gee, my gut just turned over. See? So maybe in your sincerity, which I'm sure you're very sincere, you seem like a nice guy, that by throwing your politics into it, it keeps people from participating, would keep me from participating.
Oh, sure.
The idea is great from what Mike said, but when you talk about George Floyd and the police immediately, I don't know where George Floyd works into Kingston Mutual Aid when I want to help somebody, because you know George Floyd was a different situation. We all feel bad about it, but you know, in the police person, whatever that deal is, it's all down the road.
Sure.
So by conjuring it up and bringing it back for guys like me, people like me, I go like, hell, I'm not participating. Yeah. But I would
Well,
like
that's a
to,
tough- well,
but let me finish.
Sure, please.
Okay, I'd like to, but I think there's a off-putting thing that happens, and I think people who want to help other people, like yourself, which is great, by the way, are off-putting by putting their political aspects about capitalism, boom, negative, police, boom, negative, George Floyd, boom, could be negative, it is negative. It doesn't make people want to give money, don't want to, but you don't care about those people, I guess, right?
And plus, when he was saying about the George Floyd,
you don't care about those
I
people,
care
right?
about them. I care about them as human beings, and I want them to be well. But what I'm interested in, I guess, is having a conversation. So you've expressed that you feel polarized by it. I think I mentioned
Well,
George.
you used the word polarized, I didn't.
Oh, sorry. You felt less willing as a result. I mentioned George Floyd because, as I said, that was a moment that really encouraged lots of people to ask, how do we change our society at the root level? But I won't pretend that sometimes we organize, money for people who need their court costs paid. Sometimes we're trying to get people legal fees. We don't ask if the kind of crime that they've committed, for example. Like, the police are tough because the police are part of a system which moralizes, and we are not into that. So that's more what it's about. I think I'd be willing to talk to anyone about the issues of racial justice or policing, and that we can talk about it is what's important. Not that if people get stuck in sloganeering, then that's not as exciting. So are you willing to talk about those issues, or now that you've heard the word police, it's an automatic?
No.
We do have more time, so.
I know. Darn it, we got a lot of time, don't we?
Call him outside?
We can talk it out.
One second, okay? He can call in on this number.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll text him to call that number. All right, you see, continue that.
I'm sorry.
I'll leave you alone.
I got two things going on here.
You're fine. You're good.
I apologize. I'm trying to multitask. I'm not very good at it. So anyhow, yeah, I think that I think I'm open-minded, somewhat, but I think as when we have these kind of discussions, I'd like to say we need to have somebody play the devil's advocate, and I could say I'm doing that, but in all honesty, a devil's advocate to me is somebody who doesn't agree with you. Sure. So I want to be upfront about that. It's not that I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to play a devil's advocate. But I feel that we have to ask questions, and you did a great job of delivering it. Your philosophy. I think you should be supported with that, and it's a very nice way to do it. So I think it's important that when you're doing an organization like yours, which is to help people, and that's always good, that you're able to bring people in.
Yes.
Be inclusive.
That's right.
And my fear is sometimes when we politicize stuff, we become less inclusive. And sounds like, based on, I don't know you very well, but it sounds like you're more of an inclusive kind of guy than not. So that's just a point, I think the concept of people asking for help, and whether it's for court costs or other things, is good, because we never, we never know what people really need. That's what's going on. And
it's so hard for people to be vulnerable in public.
Of
There's
course
such
it is.
shame around. I think, we used to have a debtor's prison. There's such shame around being in financial hardship in our society.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to pick up on this in about a couple minutes. Is that right? We're ready to take a break?
Absolutely, yeah. We can take a break now, and we'll be back just a little bit after 7:30.
Good.
A little bit after 8.
It's already past 7:30.
Yeah, I think so.
That's good. Thanks. You're doing well.
Oh, good. Yeah.
You're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and and 92.5 FM with Dr. Ed Aleo and his guests. And KCR is Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. It's now 7:59, and it's Monday, September 27th, 55 degrees. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Central Hudson. We'll go to our break.
Thanks for starting your day with Kingston Community Radio on 920 WGHQ AM Kingston and 92.5 W223CR FM Kingston, New York. Magic 92.5.
Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than cooking up a big meal for the whole family and lots of friends. But there's not enough room at my table for the 17 million kids in our country who struggle with hunger. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food to give hope to hungry kids. But they can't do it without your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Central Hudson's mobile app has a new look. It's the place to view and pay bills with ease. Check your electric and gas usage to better manage your energy consumption to save money. And report an outage, anytime, anywhere. Use the app to easily submit your meter reading to avoid estimated bills. Download it today from the App Store or Google Play. It's free and easy to use.
Hi, this is Dina Roy from Hurley, and I support the Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
You're listening to WGHQ AM 920 and 92.5 FM, the home of Kingston Community Radio. My name is Dan Gaddis, and it's 55 degrees here on this Monday, September 27th, and our call-in line to our hosts and guests is 331-9255. A little bit of weather again. How are we doing for the next couple days? Mostly sunny skies on, I'm going to scroll back here. Mostly cloudy skies today, then partly cloudy this afternoon with a high of 77. And Monday night, mostly cloudy skies early with scattered thunderstorms developing late. There's about a 40% chance of scattered thunderstorms tonight. And 40%, and it's a low of 59 degrees. Tuesday, cloudy with periods of rain, high around 65, winds light and variable. Chance of rain is 80%, and a few clouds from time to time Tuesday night, and a low of 44. Now we do get a nice sunny day on Wednesday with a high of 66, and partly cloudy skies on Wednesday night, a low of 47. And this upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Herzog's. Stop by Herzog's Home and Paint Center in the Kingston Plaza for all of your home building and maintenance and painting needs, and discover the difference of buying local. Sales ongoing at herzogs.com.
Sober living.
Now we'll celebrate our wonderful birthday guests. We're back on, and we will celebrate our wonderful birthday submissions here today. It's a happy birthday to Carolyn Sinnott, September 27th. Have a great day, Diane, from Diane. And happy birthday, Caroline Sinnott. You won the famous Boyce Dairy Milkhouse cow pie. Pick it up at 62 O'Neill Street anytime after 8 o'clock today.
For a birthday.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Caroline. And
Christmas, a birthday party.
And we're back. We're back online and ready to go.
I was just telling Dan, I was just telling Kwami that he could put that on his site. People can ask for a cow pie on their birthday.
Yep.
A little levity here.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get them. Yeah, a cow pie. I'm down. I'm in.
Yeah, most bakeries and dairies are very, very interested in supporting community radio. You've got on Radio Kingston, you've got the Cake Box that supports them.
Nice.
Okay, so let's continue on with our discussion here. Mike, you wanted to add something to the discussion because you're an inclusive kind of guy.
Yes, inclusive. No, and he was talking about because sometimes all it takes is someone to say George Floyd or one word to like just misconstrue things. When that happened in society and how everything got flipped up on its side, there's still people that need help. So this kind of brought attention to like, hey, there's a lot of people on the ground here who are dying and not getting the assistance because of this other stuff. So let's focus on the ones on the bottom who need the most help, and let's try to get them to a place where they can, eventually start helping people too. It's like a hand up type of thing. It's not a hand out, it's a hand up. It's like, all right, you're having a hard time. Come on, let's pull you up. I understand all this stuff. And this also affected a lot of people's mental health, and everyone's not going out, COVID, this, that, and the addiction started jumping up again with people, and just isolation, mental health, suicide, all that stuff came up. And it's just a little piece that maybe someone who has no food in their refrigerator may be able to say, hey, I need some food, and then someone actually brings them food without judgment. It might make them feel better about themselves, and then they can start getting out of the house and maybe finding work instead of sitting home being depressed about it. Because we don't know what everyone's personal situation is unless they tell us. The only thing you know about the person next to you is what they're willing to tell you. So someone, it's kind of brought up, it just brought up that there was more people in need that maybe you may think, and just find a way to help them. It's not like you're going to walk down the street and say, hey, you need help. This is just a forum that people can just ask for help and then pray, and hopefully no one judges them.
Okay. Is that a good summary, you think, Kwami?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Mike just said. Absolutely.
Oh, look at that. All right, all right, there we go. He agreed.
Guys on the same page. That's good. Well, I think that the idea of helping people is always something no one can dispute, helping people. At some point, when do we encourage people to, help themselves and stand on their own 2 feet? Belly up to the table. What are all those little sayings?
Yeah.
And helping. Do we want to capture people and keep them to where they're at by helping them in ways that they're not motivated to participate in their own situation? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So I think you're expressing. One of my favorite parables, I guess, is what is it? Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or teach him how to fish and he'll eat for his lifetime, or teach him how to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. But I think part of what our idea is that, well, what if that person doesn't actually like to fish? And what if someone else has a ton of fish and they're just sitting on it? So, and the other person does need to eat, the one who doesn't like to fish. So I think our idea is like, and if they have enough fish, if they can be given enough fish, then maybe they could also have the time to do what they actually like.
Which is what?
Well, we don't know, right? But we think that.
How about let them do what they like doing? Nothing.
Well, what if that were true, right? What if they didn't like to do anything? Yeah. Why would that be so terrible?
Well, because maybe not. You use the word terrible, but I'm just saying it's not motivating. How does that person help another person to pull themselves up by their bootstraps if that individual who is getting help likes doing nothing and doesn't give back? Where's the giving back part? Where's the charity in that for the other person receiving? They should be charitable, like the giver is being charitable.
Well, the giver is being charitable for their own reasons.
Okay, I got it.
We don't necessarily, and one thing that we really try to put down is the notion that the giver is like good, and that the person who's needy is something other than good.
No, that's not where I was going with this. I'm saying for the person who doesn't do better, likes doing nothing, your words, doing nothing. What's wrong with doing nothing? Well, doing nothing, you don't participate in society. So how do you help other people when people are helping you?
Well, that's for that person I'd like to talk to that person and ask why if they want to talk to me about it, I guess. But it's really for that person to figure out their motivations, and it's not for me to say you should be giving back.
Well, it's nice that your altruistic attitude is so non-judgmental, but life doesn't work like that in any society. I don't care if it's in China or United States. It is judgmental. Matter of fact, the communist countries are most judgmental of their people. And so are socialistic countries most judgmental, and the people on top in socialistic countries, they have the same thing. You talk about capitalism, socialism, they're on top. The ones who have the most keep the most. The ones at the bottom don't have anything and stay at the bottom in many countries. Venezuela is a perfect example. Anyhow, aside from that, because I don't want to go down that road.
Okay, because I'd love to talk to you about Venezuela if you'd
talk
like.
about some other time.
No, he's good with that.
But back to the person who wants to do nothing.
Sure,
Maybe
yeah.
you can help out, Mike.
I'm thinking there's a fine line between helping someone and enabling them.
There you go.
So, like, when the point is like, all right, there's something up with this person. They're obviously, maybe there's more than what they're saying. So that's when a moderator or administrator would reach out to them personally to try to assist them, because we're seeing, hey, there's obviously something wrong, and we don't want to just be enabling the person to continue to do, like, lie, if that's what they're doing, or just, all right, I'm going to get food for them, so today I don't need to look for work. So that there is a fine line between helping and enabling.
Well, Mike, I disagree. We don't do that. Yeah. We don't actually investigate if a person is looking for work or not. We don't. If the only time we would reach out to someone is if their post is in violation of the community agreements, or if they've done an action which has harmed another member. But we don't investigate people. We don't, if their stories are not lining up. That's not what we do. That's what other organizations do, right? But we don't do that.
Okay, well, I think that's interesting. You guys just had a little diversion from thought process here from each other.
It's a democratic organization, of course. So.
Exactly, yeah.
See, I'm big on not enabling people. And if
I don't know what the word enable, there's an assumption within the word enable that.
Of course there is.
But I don't know what it is, what's to be avoided. It's that they're not working, and so therefore what?
Not working to solve their problem.
What's their problem?
If you were in NA and AA, and you continue, somebody says, it's okay, here's a needle, I know you're trying hard, but I don't want you to hurt yourself, so here's a needle. That sounds like enabling. Or you're an alcoholic, listen, it's okay. You're working hard at it, you fell down. You fell down, no problem, you're getting back up. That's good. You fell down, but you don't want to get up. Here's a drink. I can't do that for you. Maybe it's the quintessential of tough love at that point.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. So you don't care if what'd you say about? He said about enabling. You said we don't do that. What was the context? I forgot now. You got to help me.
Our disagreement.
Yeah.
I think Mike said that we will look and see if we can help people if they seem to have a consistent issue. I think
not enable them.
And not enable them. Yeah, and I think I would want to abandon the very notion of enabling. Like, I think. So you mentioned someone using a needle. So if someone does have a drug use issue where they shoot up, I think that they should have access to clean needles. I think that people should have a place to, like, where they could do drugs, or if they could, so they could avoid things like fentanyl. Like, that would be safe and clean.
Of course I could see you doing that.
Yeah.
And that would be enabling.
Or the reduction of harm.
That's a potential death sentence for somebody. Do you know what's happening in last year in New York State? 22% more people are dead because of overdosing.
That's right.
Because 2% were enabled. I don't know. Maybe none were enabled, but
But we already have a society where we stigmatize drug use and where it's illegal, and that hasn't stopped those people from overdosing. So clearly, the way we're doing it now isn't working.
Some people may stigmatize drug use, but look at marijuana is legal, so it's not so stigmatized anymore. But I think the stigmatism, if you will call that, is a fear of people dying, not of doing drugs.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so you're enabling them, So the word you and I are stuck on enabling.
Well, no, I appreciate
the word that I brought up.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Mike.
Catalyst.
I appreciate that you mentioned the fear of death. I think that is actually a huge part of what motivates people's attempt to stop others from using drugs. And I think our fear of death, we could imagine that it's a healthy thing. I recommend everyone listening to this to read this amazing book by Sheldon Whitehouse, and I have to look up the title of it, which I'll get back to in just a moment. He has done this incredible psychological research on the fear of death, and found that, so he took people, obviously he had control groups and experiment groups, and he exposed them to subliminal reminders of their own mortality, and he found that after that, they became more likely to express anti-Semitic or racist views. They became more likely to, if they were given a potential crime to sentence, to offer a harsher sentence. So there's another one, I hope that won't be too polarizing. They were more likely to vote for Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton. But
definitely polarizing.
Yeah, sorry about that one. But he found that in his study. I'm just reporting what the man did. But the fear of death is at the root of so much of what's wrong with our society. And so if we could find a way to stay in the present moment and say, is the person alive now? And ask the question of what do they need right now? That's where we want to start moving us towards that approach, rather than, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, I'm anxious about it, and I want to control for that. There's no controlling for the future. You could save someone from drug addiction and they could get hit by a bus. There's no avoiding death, by the way. It's literally what we're all going to have in common at some point. So if we could stop being anxious about it, I think a lot of good things can come out of that.
Yeah, I mean, that took us in a different direction of being anxious or not being anxious about dying versus, what was the word you used? Enabling people. There's a difference, see, and I like how you segue away from that by using your terminology and talking about people. This fellow, what was his name, Dr. What?
Sheldon Whitehouse. He's a professor at Skidmore College.
Of course.
But you mentioned that you were trying to avoid people dying. That's how the fear of death.
Well, I know how it got, but the point is that enabling in your program, not that you enable people, don't get me wrong.
And we don't have a program.
We went back to the point where what'd you say?
And we don't have a program. It's not a program. We don't have a program.
This is wording.
We have a Facebook page.
See, it's for me, and I'm a very limited person. I understand that. Language is everything. And when you get to semantics and you do what you just did, that's off-putting.
Oh, okay. What does it seem like?
I said, what did I say the word was? A program? I said program. Yeah. And you said we don't have a program. So that stops Ed from talking to you. So I mean, what do I do next? What do I do next?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think language is super important to me as well. So, because even a couple of times you said your organization, your program.
What is it? What would it be categorized as? Maybe that might be a good way to say it instead of saying program.
Sure. I mean, I think you're right. I was being a little bit pedantic. I apologize. You can use the word program.
I agree. Thank you for allowing me to use a word.
Program's fine. I think I probably just want folks to really understand that it's not a institution that directs people. The word program to me makes me think of we put people through an education, which we don't.
For a guy like Ed Aleo, it's the essence of what it is that you want to put forth. So when you get stuck on program, my program,
the word,
the other word, then a block goes up. What do you care what they say? I mean, see, you're stuck. You want it to be your language. Or no language, whatever that word is.
I suppose that's right.
And so when you talk to somebody like me, because I'm a little hardcore, I mean, I have my beliefs and you have your beliefs, and when I say program to find out what you do, we don't have a program. Like, what the hell are we talking about?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's call it a program.
Yay.
You. Thank you.
All right.
Anyway, what were you
And
saying?
they
by the
shake
way.
hands.
There we
What's
go.
that?
Well, for people who don't see it, I said, and they shake hands.
Oh, look at that.
So anyhow, let's get back to
Yes.
the essence.
See, I told you the hour will go quick.
The
yeah.
Kingston Mutual Aid is there to have, in my thought process, individuals who go onto the site who may need help to be helped by other individuals, whether it's food, clothing. You can't do a pat on the back, I guess, but maybe
Of course you
could.
can.
Maybe you could. Yeah, you can. Rah them to help them any way you can. I think that's a great idea, by the way. I think it's different than other people. I still think statistics are important. I know you don't, but it's good. You know why it's good? Let me just tell you. It's a way for people to know that you impact others. You know, and we all need to, like, what am I doing if I'm not helping? Well, you're doing it because it's altruistic. Well, yeah, I'm going to be altruistic, but how much help are you really helping people? Remember all the not-for-profits that have all the hierarchies that we talked
Exactly,
about?
yeah.
Who do they help? I don't know who they help. They say they help, but 97% of the revenue they generate goes to the bureaucrats.
Exactly.
I'm just saying. I don't know if that's true. I'm just
Sure.
being silly about it or negative. But then there are other organizations that give a lot of food and help people, like the one over on Clinton Avenue, where they have that
with the blue fridge you was talking
where they have
about.
the
Blue
refrigerator.
fridge, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's nice. And I put stuff in there, and then you got some other character who comes and raids it and takes all the food.
That's right.
And that's really sad.
Or that person fed themselves for a long time and then
or sold it and made money on it.
Well, then maybe they use the money to feed their kids. I mean, but then
or they just bought drugs.
Well, then if they got drug money that way, then they didn't rob someone. I mean, there's
They'll have a contour for everything.
I don't mind.
I'm just saying the spin that we put on it. This is why language is really important.
I think that if somebody were on your site and they are negative, you I'm sure you dress them down or you correct them or do something else. And that's how I feel about that refrigerator, which I think is a great idea, that people come and steal all the food. That's wrong. And they should be dressed down. Not that they.
How can you steal from a free fridge?
Well, because other people can't get food afterwards. Other people walk up behind them and there's no food left.
But then we have enough food.
It's called gluttony.
If
they eat it all.
A deadly sin. So it is about a moral system in a kind of way.
Of course it is about. What is yours? Yours is a moral system too.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry. What is it?
It's a practice of...
another word.
Well, it's literally not a moral system.
Got somebody calling in? We got a caller calling in.
Oh, snap.
There you go.
Hello, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Vincent. I've lived in Kingston my whole life.
You what? Okay, hi, Kingston. Good, Vincent. Go ahead.
I'm legally blind.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still going along, my brother. Missing 12 feet of small intestine. You really got to catch up to reality. I'm not speaking to anyone in particular. You can't change it. But that fridge feeds people.
I
and
agree.
It's real hard to steal free food. I bet every one of you there could donate 4 refrigerators today to feed the person that needs to steal it, needs that amount of food.
True.
I guarantee it.
True.
You know how many times I can afford to fill that fridge?
How many times?
3, 4 times. Because the food stamps kept this man alive while he was homeless the last 2 years. You think I didn't eat from that fridge? That's a great thing to do. That's reality. And as far as death,
Vincent, nobody's
people that are dying on drugs, they need a little bit of help and understanding.
Vincent, no one's. We're not objecting to the. I wasn't objecting to the refrigerator. I was objecting to how. I wasn't objecting at all. I was supporting how good it is, and we were trying to make a point. It was an analogy.
Bad people that are going to steal the food. You just got to stop making everyone the enemy, man. We're all the same person.
Well, thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that.
No, I don't feel like correcting you. I just, I really got a sense of community, which I never had growing up in Kingston, mind you.
Oh, good.
But being homeless and the way people are at People's Place, Tilda's Kitchen, I love living here.
So do we.
I'm
So do
never
I.
going to leave. I can't afford to live here. You all know that, right?
That's right. Good for you, man. Well, we appreciate your input. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, thank you for listening. It
You're a
just
good
we all
man.
got to take care of each other, and the smallest ways count the most.
Thank you for your call. Appreciate.
Thank you.
God bless. Bye.
So, see, that's what happens when my statement got taken out of context from my vantage point. From Vincent's point, it wasn't out of context. It was a negative, which I didn't mean it to be, by the way.
But many people say those types of things about the fridge, right? That
Well, I just
people
used that
are-
example.
Yeah,
It was a bad example, maybe.
It's a
I
really
don't know.
common. It's a common belief that people are stealing from the fridge or that
Or
they're
taking
taking
too
too
much,
much.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's a super common idea, and we definitely want to replace that with a sense that, well, that means that there's more space for other people to give. You know.
That's good. That's a good thought.
Maybe have more like, I don't know, like how it is. You know, my wife brought food there numerous times. She makes things and I even put it over there. I don't know is there someone there policing it? You know what I mean? Or it's just, hey, the refrigerator, go take what you want. I don't even know if there's someone over there like, this is the fridge or this is the guy.
No, there's nobody there.
Yeah, exactly. So
I
maybe-
put stuff in, no one's there.
I mean, I think Clinton Avenue Church sponsors it, and Joe Greenberg is someone who has it just recently got helped it get fixed because it had
A
an
new fridge,
electrical
yeah.
problem. I think he's the main
I was gonna say we need a
administrator
new
over
fridge
there.
then, huh?
But his
Yeah,
job
they actually
isn't
fixed it or did something,
to
yeah.
police. You know, his job isn't to say, okay, you get this much. That's not. Again, it's similar in feel to mutual aid.
That's good. Well, anyhow, let's get back to you.
Okay.
Get 'em.
We want to talk about Kingston Mutual Aid, or we did anyhow. We do. We do.
Anytime.
Yeah. Well, you did a good job. You've done a good job, and I think people get a sense of what Kingston Mutual Aid is. Now, what's the website?
So go on to Facebook and search for Kingston Mutual Aid.
That's it.
That's
Simple.
it.
No .com.
Nope. We are.
We don't think about .coms.
No, .com.
Because again, an organization would need a .com.
There you go. Silly me.
Well, Facebook's a good forum because it's you can follow it, and Facebook's a great forum for what you're doing because it's social, first of all, and secondly, it's something that you can follow through the history of it and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, Dan always has great input, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, he's always, he does.
Yeah. So, so, I was trying to think. So, how many moderators do you have?
Right now we have, let me count because it's a always changing lineup, but we have myself, Michael, Andrea, Carrie, Mika, Teresa, thank you, and Barbara Marie. So 7.
That's good. And do they take time, different times, or they just show up?
Oh,
That's the question.
It's a free for all.
It's a free for all
at times. Yes, exactly.
So we can have all 7 at one time.
Sometimes we have our own moderator thread, and we're trying to keep up with things. And
So who moderates the moderators? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Yes, you like that?
You want to get on that? You can moderate.
Oh, I can see me on that.
Yeah.
2 minutes, you're out of here, Ed.
Exactly. I know, you're out. You're out, Tom. You're out, Tom.
Okay. So how many? You don't know the numbers, so I can't ask you that.
Don't know the
How
numbers.
many people come on to the site?
Oh, I can tell you that.
good.
There are 3,400 members on the Facebook page, which is enormous, considering now not everyone is within the city limits. There are people, but even for Ulster County, that's something like 13% of Kingston's population. That's a huge amount.
That's pretty good.
Now, I will say that there are some people who are members who I think are on the page just to watch.
Observe.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
to observe. That's not my favorite part of it.
Observe and judge from afar.
Yeah. So we've had situations where people have screenshot someone after they've made an ask, and then they send it to their. We've had it. Some people send to their employers. We've had it sent to their.
Really?
People
Yeah,
send to
yeah,
their family members.
Terrible.
There's some folks out there who, again, I think they experience the shame of seeing other people's need. They can't really handle it, and I think they might have a bit of need themselves, and they wish they could ask. So there's a kind of envy of people who will.
That's a little mean-spirited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
To do anything like that. We got about 30 seconds left.
Oh, sure.
So why don't you take 30 seconds and wrap it up for me? A summary of who you are, what you doing.
Oh, gosh. My name is Kwami Holmes. I'm scholar in residence at the Human Rights Program at Bard College and also an administrator for Kingston Mutual Aid, and just really grateful to have an opportunity to advance what I think is a sustainable way of doing culture and human relationship through this work.
Well, I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed it. I've had a good time with you. And you.
This was fun.
Mike. Yeah. And, maybe you'll come back another time, okay?
Anytime you'd like.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Okay, Dan.
Okay, and thank you. Thank you, Kwami Holmes, and thank you, Mike, Enoch, and also, of course, Dr. Ed Aleo. It's now at the bottom of the hour, and you're with us here on KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ. 55 degrees on this Monday, September 27th, 8:30 a.m. And this last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Herzog's. Stop by Herzog's Home and Paint Center in the Kingston Plaza for all of your home building, maintenance, and painting needs, and discover the difference of buying local. Check out their website. There's always sales going on at herzogs.com. And we'll be right back after these messages.
Thanks for starting your day with Kingston Community Radio on 920 WGHQ AM Kingston and 92.5 W223CR FM Kingston, New York. Magic 92.5.
Hey, I'm Haley Kiyoko, and I know what it's like to struggle with mental health issues. If you have a friend that's going through a tough time, now is the perfect moment to reach out. Learn how to start the conversation at seizetheawkward.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Crispy, blazed, toasty, faded, lit. No matter what you call it, if you're high, you're too high to drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Eleanor Arrow from the town of Ulster, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And today is Monday, September 27th, and it's 55 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. You're listening to WGHQ, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. And let's get back to the on-air studio with Dr. Ed Aleo and Mike Enoch.
Thanks, Dan. Mike and I are sitting here, Mike Enoch and I. We're waiting for Dr. Pat Hines to call in. He's in Connecticut. He's going to call in shortly, and we're going to have another conversation. And I'll introduce him when he comes in, but the discussion is going to be on suicide. And he has experience and expertise in that area. But it goes along with some of the stuff you and I were talking about, Mike, with Kwami, about people's need and what they do and enabling and stuff like that. And what happens to individuals under those conditions, you know, and we know people overdose and die. I wonder if people really, when they overdose, intentionally overdose.
Yeah, sometimes with that, it's more of a, like the desperation of the addiction. It's like, I hope I don't wake up sometimes like that. I know that many times in mine, when I woke up the next morning, it's like, oh my God, what did I do? Yeah. So the remorse each morning. So if you do this, maybe I won't wake up, maybe I will. And it's a safe way out. because you don't got to be accountable.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, I never think of those things, so that's always good information about addiction and stuff like that.
Yeah, with the ones that die from that way, but it's other people with mental health, with suicide, and there's totally other reasons why they're doing it. If they can.
One of the questions I have for Dr. Hines is, he mentioned it when I talked to him, is on why do people commit suicide, and what are the different causes what are the causations for them to do the act of suicide?
Exactly, to get to that point where that's the only answer.
And they're not always the same. It's not always depression. It's not always whatever, So we'll figure that out. In the meantime, we had a good discussion with Kwami, I thought.
Yeah, no, that was definitely good. And like I was telling you beforehand, like when we were talking about, because it's similar, it's with the community and helping the community where the government service is lacking at times, like the Ryan House, which opened up this weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's good. We talked with the Ryan House, and that's a alcohol and drug facility, not-for-profit, and they don't take insurance. That was, I'm glad it opened. I'm interested to see how it functions.
No, exactly. It's a real nice spot, too. We were in there. He's on.
Dr. Hines, are you there?
I am here.
Hey,
right,
well, this is Dr. Patrick Hines. He's a friend and colleague of mine over the years. Dr. Hines is a psychiatric social worker. How are you doing today, Pat?
Just fine, thanks.
Tell our audience a little bit about your background, would you please?
Sure. Well, no, I worked in a lot of psychiatric settings. That was in Michigan, in New York, in several places, and then finally, when I moved closer to here where I live now, I was at the Institute of Living. So these were a lot of places, and so there was a lot of issues that had to do with suicide. But I will tell you that there was not a lot of training about suicide issues, but I was very active with this stuff, and so why don't you what kind of things are you concerned about, or what would you like me to help you with?
Well, I was thinking that, you and I spoke for a short time. I don't hear him too well. You and I talked a little bit about why people commit suicide, what are the causes of it, and how prevalent is it, what age groups do it, is there a gender difference, all those different things, which most people know nothing about. So how does that work, Pat? I mean, what are the causes, for example?
Well, there's lots and lots of causes for suicide. Some people are dying with cancer or something else, or all sorts of things happen. And so the most important thing is that make sure that we actually are talking to people and finding out what's going on. So that's the most important. So there are, no matter what it is, even if it's somebody's dying because some other thing, whatever it is, we can talk to people. People can be talked to, and to help them to resolve it, whatever this is. It's not always an easy thing, but it can be done. Yeah.
So talking to them, I'm going to get feedback now. Talking to them, I understand that part. But what are the causes besides dying and depression? Generally, what motivates people to commit suicide?
Well, again, as I said, there's not one thing, but I'll give you an example.
Sure.
For example, one of the situations that I was involved with was there was an adolescent who was he was in love with his car. He had this kind of race car sort of like thing, and then he was just. His friends would come and ride with him, and that was the biggest thing in his world, his car, and then he and somebody else got caught doing some kind of drug thing in the car, and his license was moved, and he killed himself. That was it. This was his life. That's what it was like to him. This was like my life, you know. So it's really important then that we pay attention. If someone's having a problem, sometimes they will not say something, but we need to reach out and say, you know, Ed, what's going on? You know, you're my friend, or I'm a therapist, or whatever. And how about we talk about this? You know, that kind of thing. So it's not simple. There's a whole bunch of reasons why people might want to do these things. And I worked, as I just said, in a number of places, and there are all sorts of things that are different. The most important thing is that we have to be able to talk to people with the idea that I can talk to you, and we can try to figure out what to do. It doesn't have to be this bad.
Well, you know, Pat, Dr. Hines, you know, when we talk about talking to people, it appears to me, based on, you know, what I see in society, people hesitate about confronting individuals about what they worry about. Like parents, you know their kid is isolated, knows he's hanging out with the wrong person, knows they're doing drugs or might be doing drugs, and they don't talk to them. They kind of like ignore it and hope it'll get better. So where does the talking come in? How do you get them to talk?
The kids directly, you mean?
No, the parents or the observer.
Oh, the parent. Well, you have to be able to talk to a parent and just let me give you an example.
Sure.
Okay. So I was talking to this medical guy, very high guy, rich guy, and whatnot, and he was just really upset because his son was not doing well at all at school. It was terrible. So he was. Everyone else is supposed to be great, you know, and I said, well, you know what? I think what you should do. Why don't you have him come talk to me? And he said, okay. So he came, and then I said to him, now this wasn't necessarily a suicide thing, but it's the same kind of model here. And I talked to him. He was a nice kid, you know, and I had some things that I assessed, okay? And one of those things with kids, of course, that can be a problem is attention deficit disorder, you know. And so I talked to him, and I had a way of looking at this stuff and asking him some questions. And every time I would say, does this sound like you? Oh, yeah, big time. How about this one, a little bit? No, this is the... So when that happened, I met with the father then, who is a medical person, and he didn't like the idea that medicine, giving him any kind of medicine. And I said, in this case, it's wrong, because he has this attention deficit disorder, and this one medicine here can change his life. He says, are you serious? I said, I am serious. Okay. Months later, I bumped into him in Hartford, where I work, and he said, this is incredible. He's now finished his high school, and he's down in a college in Washington, and it's unbelievable. You see, so that's the kind of situation where you have to figure out, okay, what do we got here? In this case, it was a kid, okay, a father who was really not, ready to do that. Uh-huh. But I was able to help him to do something else, and it changed his life. It changed the whole family.
Pat, we have Michael Enoch here. He's a friend of mine. He has a question for you.
Yeah, actually, because that person came to you, and what I do for a living, I deal with people in that situation. So, they're in services, they're getting help. What about the people that don't have a doctor friend or don't have someone to call? I think I was trying to find out what are the causes, because once they're in services, once they go to a doctor or something like that, then it's all right, they're getting help that way. But what signs to look for if we're not a professional, if we don't know what to look for. You know, because I know a lot of times that people, you know, when I meet with them, because I work in substance abuse services, and people are very upset when they come in and very hopeless. So it's a little different than, you know, being suicidal.
So what are the signs that people should look for in individuals? I know there are many, many, but, you know, what are the typical or atypical signs of people who are maybe suicidal?
Well, you know, I've never had a problem when I wasn't with someone and would say, now listen, so what's going on? So I never had a problem, and I've done it for hundreds and hundreds of times. I haven't had that issue. I really haven't. If people were coming in and I talked to them and I was open with them and say, well, what's going on? I mean, they will do things, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I understand that. I understand that part, but that's when they get to you. How does the layperson know the signs that they should be looking for in a family member or friend or anybody who's not coming in and jumps off the bridge? How do they know that? What are the signs? There must be something.
Well, you know, that can happen. Now, as you were just saying this, I was thinking about when I was working in the Institute of Living for a long time, and a young woman came over, and then I was talking to her about her family, and it was clear she was having a lot of problems. Right then, I knew she needed to be medicated too. And then I decided, you know what, I can't get any idea about what's going on in this family here. And I said, well, you know what, how about you and I take a walk, because you're going to go back into your house pretty soon anyway, in a few hours, right? She said, yes. I said, do you mind if I actually go talk to them? And she said, no, I don't mind. I think they would like that. I said, okay, you know. And so then because I was thinking, you know what, you never know what's going to be there. You know, so I did this a number of times when I actually got to a home. And so this particular one was, we got there, I opened up the door, and then on this big table, it's piled all over the place with $20 bills. Huge amount. And this got all, this was a whole crazy thing, because it turns out that the son got some problems down in the South, and the person who was working this stuff said, well, I could get him out down in, you know, whatever it was, Georgia, I think, but you need to give us these $20 bills. So there were crazy things going on in that house, you know. So sometimes you just have to try to see if you can beat people, you know.
Yeah. Okay. But the point, Dr. Hines, the point I guess that Mike was asking is, how does the layperson know the signs? Not Pat Hines, who gets to talk to the person and can help them. How do we get them to you? How does the person know what to do? What are the signs?
Well, if you're saying that people are not really watching things, or not looking at things, or not paying attention, and then they see something really awful, and they don't even think about it. Well, I don't know what to do with that.
Well, I guess maybe it's I don't know if it's awful or not, but let's say maybe it is awful. I mean, maybe somebody is in their room all the time, and they're not coming out, or they cut themselves, and the parents ignore it, or they don't know what to do, or they pull their hair out and they don't know they're pulling their hair out. What are the other? Those are signs that I just gave you. What are other signs that people have?
Well, first of all, if you're saying that people are pulling hair and cutting themselves, it would be I hardly ever had that situation. It's more likely that somebody's calling me and said, I don't know what to do with Janice here, but she's doing this and she's doing this and she's doing this, And that's my experience.
What is Janice doing?
Yeah,
what are the things that they call you about that she's doing?
Well, whatever things that just don't make any sense. You know, the parents, mostly the parents are, recognize those kind of things, that this is a problem, and they don't know what to do about it. And that's when, I've forgotten what your name, sir, but I know you have, so you do this stuff, and you get called, I get called, or I used to get called. I'm not doing it right now because I'm doing some other stuff now. So I don't know if that's the best I can say, Ed.
Yeah, because like when they come to me, they're already kind of in things. So that's like the kind of dialogue that we open up because we need to talk about that. There's specific questions. And if someone says, like when I worked in detox, if someone was feeling, you ask them, do you got a plan?
Okay, a different avenue of discussion maybe. During the pandemic, is suicide up, do you know, or do we have any idea? Is there more suicide, people hurting themselves more out of frustration? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been doing this for a while now, so the pandemic is not some of what I've been doing. Yeah.
But I'm sure with the pandemic, the numbers have gone up because of the isolation and the disconnect from people.
You know, Michael and I were just talking about drug use and people who are shooting up. And one of the things that Michael mentioned was that sometimes they shoot up. How do you say it, Michael? They shoot up with the idea that maybe I won't wake up.
Maybe I won't wake up. And it'll be okay, because at that moment, with the desperation they're feeling and the hopelessness of the addiction, rather than jumping off a roof or shooting himself in the head, stick a needle in your arm, there's probably fentanyl in it, maybe I'll just die. How to be aware of those feelings of hopelessness, that maybe not like someone's going to walk down the street and say they're feeling hopeless, or my life is not what I wanted it to be, because we certainly don't know what's in people's heads. You know, with suicide awareness, well, what does that actually mean? How do we be aware of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was certainly something that I was involved with that many, many, many times. So yes, and then you have to address it.
You know, I guess the awareness factor is something that people need to be more educated about, so they are aware of individuals who are in crisis and don't even know it, and then they do something like hurt themselves or shoot themselves or jump off a bridge. It happens all the time. Mm-hmm. And what are the signs? You know, I mean, like we have a bridge here that's pretty famous, and at least a couple of times a year or more, people do a header off of that bridge, which is really sad. But you know, there must be other people must have known something. I mean, they don't all leave letters. They don't leave letters to their family saying why they did it. They just do it, and they go like, "Why? What happened? What happened?" You know, I mean, what were the signs that we missed?
At the Institute of Living where I worked, because it had a thing. Well, first of all, it was a very unusual place because at that time, for a long time, nobody had to even pay anything. Okay, if people called up, and then I, for example, one of the people would talk to them, and I would see them. They would come in, and there was no cost. So a lot of people were coming in, and they were. It was amazing how open people were big there. I'll just give you an example, just how kind of weird it can be at times. So this woman came in, and she said at one of the times I'd seen her a couple of times, and she says, "Well, I bought a what do you call that? What's that kind of knife that the Italians have?
A stiletto.
A
stiletto.
A stiletto. Yeah." She says, "Well, I'm feeling better with this. I've got a stiletto." I said, "I'm sorry, you have a stiletto?" "Yes." "You know what a stiletto is?" "Yes, I know what a stiletto is." "Oh, why are you getting this stiletto?" "Well, this guy that they started living together, he's a big guy, and he will snap his finger, she was saying, and she's supposed to go to the get beer there, and she was just getting angrier. I said, so what are you thinking about doing with the stiletto? Well, I'm thinking about he'll sit down, I'll give him the beer, and I'll walk behind him, then I'm going to stab him through his neck.
Yeah, that's
what she said. I said, well, okay. All right, here, there's a problem here for me, because I'm actually trying to help you, you know. And now if you stab him, he's going to be dead, and you're going to be in prison for years. I said, but you know what? I think you're a pretty strong person and smart person. So here's what I think you should do. I think next week you should come see me. But I bet that you're going to come in this time and give me a much better thing for you too and him. So she said, "Oh well, maybe I can do that." I said, "Oh good, because I don't want you to be in prison. I don't want you to kill him." So she came in the next week, and she was happy. I said, "Well, how you doing?" "Good." I said, "Well, what happened?" "Well, I have a great. It's working great. I'm really happy now." I said, "Would you mind telling me?" She said, "Sure." So what I did is now in a little while, by the way, before she told me this, the psychiatrist who was coming from England now called me and said, "Dr. Hines, I'm sure you don't know this, but this lady came in and she was telling me about this stiletto." I said about that. What she did is she says she puts pee in his beer.
Pee in his beer.
I said,
she urinated in his beer.
I know that. Yes. Yeah. So she urinates in the thing. And so the doctor said, "So what about it?" I said, "Well, she was going to kill him, and now she puts a little tiny beer, a urine in his, gives it to him. He likes the beer just like that, and I don't think it's going to hurt him." She said, "Oh my God!" She said, "This is United States. Oh my God, what kind of place are you?" So.
Well, okay, so that's kind of a offshoot of suicide. It's like anti-suicide. Let's kill the other guy.
Then I'll feel better.
I'll feel better. So at least she worked it out.
Yeah,
so
she peed in the thing.
It's a combination of stilettos, urine, and beer. Yeah, that works. and she's still alive, and so is he. That's great.
That works out.
Unfortunately, about 10 months after that, she died from a sickness.
Oh,
but it wasn't. Yeah, it was. I felt bad about it. But it was amazing how well she had done, given what she had to deal with.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's better than suicide.
Yeah, or getting out of the abusive relationship with the snaps.
So she was already emotionally upset, and I guess she could go from killing to suicide. And I guess that saved someone's life for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good time.
So.
Yeah. So with that being said, that person would rather need more assistance with, because it seems like there was a core issue there, and that issue was maybe abuse. If the guy's snapping, get my beer.
Right. Emotional
abuse. So that's definitely something that can trigger something.
Okay. Listen, Dr. Hines, we have about 30 seconds left, and you have a pearl to leave us with?
Suicide pearl.
Suicide pearl. What do I think bottom line is there are suicide hotlines, right?
Sometimes, yes. We started that years ago, and
does it work?
So yes.
Is it busy?
It can be.
Yeah, busy.
What's
okay.
That?
I said, was it busy?
The suicide prevention hotlines.
Not terribly busy, but it happens.
Okay.
I did a lot of that training with people.
Uh-huh. Well, it's an interesting topic. I thought this month was Suicide Prevention Month, but I don't know that. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays everything's a day now.
Yeah, a day, not a month.
Everything's a month, a day. Yeah.
So it's a good topic. We appreciate your calling in, and we'll do it again sometime. Okay.
Well, I hope it was okay, but so yes, absolutely. Anytime you want me to talk to you, I'll gladly do it.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot, Dr. Hines, Patrick Hines.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I believe October.
Thank you. And this has been Medical Monday. Monday, September 27th, and 59 degrees now here in Uptown Kingston. And this last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, one right near you. Thank you for sharing the morning with us and participating in Kingston Community Radio, KCR AM 920, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Talk radio at its best, inspired discussions of, by, and for the community. We invite you to keep up with us every weekday, 7 to 9 a.m. And until tomorrow for a terrific Tuesday, we wish you every success in growing and developing Kingston and all our neighboring communities. We now return you to Magic 92.5.
GHQ AM Kingston and 92.5 W223CR FM Kingston, New York. We're streaming through our website, WGHQ.FM.